What's going on, guys? Welcome back. Season 2 of the Immigration Stat Us podcast. You know who I am, Myron Turner. I'm so excited to be back. And thank you for tuning in again. If you were here with us in Season 1, of course, you know how we roll here. And in Season 2, we got so much more to talk about. Today, we're going to be talking with a very special friend of mine, Siliphone Sihapanya, a.k.a. Leena. And she is actually from Laos. She's actually been here for 3 years and 10 months. So let's go ahead and tune in. Today, we're going to be talking about her story, immigrating from Laos to New Zealand, but also touching in on how she experienced the vaccine mandates. Tune in. As you know, we just here to get your story, your immigration story from start to finish, your reason for coming to New Zealand, pretty much why you ended up landing here of all places, at the bottom of the earth, and you know how you found your journey from start to finish. So by all means, please, you have the floor. Why did you end up in New Zealand, or how did you end up in New Zealand?
Right. Well, that's mainly due to my husband's family, why we're here. Mm-hmm. But I have always earned this title of an immigrant ever since I was 9 years old. But and coming to New Zealand was quite a huge deal because I never had a proper citizenship.
Yeah.
Even though I was born in Laos, I have a Laotian citizenship until today, and I still have that.
It's called Laotian.
Laotian.
Oh, I like the sound of that. I'm sorry. I get distracted really easily. I'm like a child.
Right.
Sorry. Continue.
Yeah, so I am Laotian. I still am, and I've been Laotian since I was born. But when I moved to America, I lived there illegally. I went there with my mom as just a child, attending with the mother because she had to go to America due to her personal circumstance, and I kind of had to tag along.
Yeah,
and I lived there. Without really wanting to. And I live with many families and just never knowing where was home, really. Oh, and the word immigrant, was kind of imprinted on my face for a long time. And especially as I got older and throughout high school year, immigration, being an immigrant was quite a huge thing in America. People talk about, especially where I lived in Oregon, was Hispanic culture. A lot of people just focus on that more than actually there's other type of immigrants. And like I said, I've always had that immigrant character.
You always felt like, like you didn't really belong, but you're here.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I went back to Laos because I guess I've been searching for a home and a place that I can call myself being a part of it. It's like until today, it's been hard to even own the fact that I'm Laos, that I'm Laotian.
Wait, so how long were you in America?
For 11 years.
And then you moved back to Laos.
Yes.
So you were in Laos as a little girl.
Yes.
Moved to America in your pubescent years?
So 9 years old till 19.
Okay. And then you moved back to Laos.
Yes.
And then, so what happened with you and your husband? So how did that happen? And then how did you end up in New Zealand?
Right. So when I went back to Laos after high school, I started working with a nonprofit organization called the Asha Foundation. And that's where I met Mark, my husband.
Okay.
He was a teacher there at the moment. At that time, he was a teacher. And I was just looking for a job, and that's how we met. Didn't know he was from New Zealand,
You didn't know he was from New Zealand.
No.
You didn't pick up that Kiwi accent right away.
To be honest, his accent was a bit off.
His accent is a bit off. Was a bit off.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, in between. In like he
Thought he was Australian, didn't you?
No, actually, when he was working there at the Asher Foundation, he had a bit of an American accent. Oh, he's gonna watch this.
He was faking it.
It was a mix of an American accent.
He was trying to impress
Kiwi.
you. Because that's what you do when you want to impress a girl. You put on an American accent.
So yeah, I didn't know anything about New Zealand, to be honest. I always actually thought that New Zealand was part of Europe.
Yep. I thought New Zealand was a club. When I first heard it, I had no idea. Never heard of it. I heard of Australia.
Yeah.
But I had no idea what New Zealand was either.
Yeah. Actually, funny enough, when I was working there, I was also looking for a second job, and the second job was a travel agency job, and that job was actually the title was recruiting students to international country, and this was a company owned by Thai people working in Laos, and the position that I was supposed to work in was actually helping Laos students to go to New Zealand. So that was actually the first time I heard about New Zealand. So not through my husband. So I did a little bit of research about it, and because I was trying to sell New Zealand to Laos students. Yeah, this is a country to go to and study. Yeah. That's where I got a little bit of background of New Zealand, and then after that, just alongside with working with Mark, and knowing that he's from here, he's from New Zealand.
When you say working with Mark, is that the time you fell in love? Because you say that like you downplay the fact that this is the point in time when you guys fell in love.
Yeah, pretty much. We both were in long distance relationship when we first met. But as we were assigned to work together, we were actually our bosses actually was there all their ideas to I guess they saw something. They were matchmaking, So they put us into this project, which is writing English video scripts. But most of the time Mark was working. I was just there to chat with him. I was supposed to help him translate into Lao. But
that's a setup. That is a clear setup. This sounds like a beginning of a bad rom-com. This is a straight Ben Stiller type movie right here. This is it. I'm here to translate. Yeah. You know what? I can go all day on that. Never mind. So how did you guys make the decision? What made you make the decision to move to New Zealand?
Our first baby, Layla.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We knew that we wanted to raise our child somewhere else other than Laos. I'm not very comfortable saying what Laos is like overall because I can't get in trouble with the government. If someone sees this video, maybe a Lao person. I don't know.
Cool. You don't have to get in detail.
So, but I knew that it was not, it's not where I want to raise my kid.
Fair enough.
Yeah. It was a good place to start off with, but it felt like a dead end in a way.
Okay.
Culturally, I guess I was always trying to break out of it. It's like I want to be proud of who I am and where I'm from, but I guess because I was still in that journey at that time when Layla was still young, I was trying to find my identity, and I felt like I needed to be out of here to know exactly who I am and own that. Wow. And Laos at that time, it was a bit sensitive to me too because I was still. It's like going back and getting to know my family again, and it was 9 years of my life, but when I went back to Laos, it has changed so much. Wow. And I felt quite lost. Therefore, knowing that, okay, going to New Zealand, I know the culture would be much more similar to America, which is a Western type of lifestyle. But this was just out of assumption as well before we actually came here for the first time to get married in 2018. Okay. Yeah. So that was the first time we came here. Immigration process was incredibly complicated.
In what way?
The visas were so hard, so hard. Actually, before I even got the visa that got accepted, I got denied, I believe 3 or 4 times.
Why?
Our relation, well, according to the immigration,
According to Immigration New
New
Zealand.
Zealand immigration or New Zealand immigration, didn't see that our relationship was, what's the word? Not authentic.
What's the word? I forget the word they use.
Yeah, there's this
Credible or something like that.
There's a term for it, but basically they didn't trust that we were honest, because there's a lot of, I guess, known cases of people bringing in an immigrant to a country that's like a first world country, and sneaking in here to get a job and live here under the table and somehow, So I mean, that's my assumption. Like I also because I had a bad record of living in America illegally, but I was there involuntarily.
You were a minor.
I was a minor.
But they held that to you.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Right from the get-go. I mean, the first visa, I guess maybe this is my nice side of me being nice, is that we've only been together for less than a year.
Oh, okay.
That was like a partnership tourist visa or something like that. So when that one got denied, it was a bit upsetting, but the reasons they gave us was at that time seemed solid. Oh, your relationships have not been long enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't prove to us that this is, They were scared that I was going to come in and, I guess, work illegally and not leave the country.
So you got rejected 4 times from Immigration New Zealand?
Yes, about 3 before I got approved.
3 times.
So this sounds bad, actually. I feel like having the baby was what really, showed the immigration that, okay, their relationship is solid.
Thank God for the nannies that work at Immigration New Zealand who had a soft heart for you.
Yeah, I guess.
Wait a minute, she has a baby? No. Approved. So,
they have a baby,
They have a baby now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, okay. Yeah. No, that's interesting. All right. Yeah. So you came here and that was all in 2018?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The marriage happened the same year. And okay. Well, let's get straight to the highlights and lowlights.
Yeah.
I always like to kind of get, I guess, a more detailed perspective from your side of things.
Yeah.
Of like how... Yeah, have you found life, since you come over? Has it been that long? It's been about 3 years. 3 years and a bit, so 3 years and 10 months to be exact. But that's not really a long time when you think about the grand scheme of things. So what has been like a highlight since you've been here?
Definitely the environment and nature. That's probably the highlight of just, it is quite ideal for us. For me, I do enjoy the nature aspect for my kids. I love that we can just go outside for a walk.
It is nice.
And playgrounds.
It's nice.
The main thing is the nature, the environment. It feels more, I guess also where I live, which is the eastern side of...
East side?
The east side of Auckland.
East side.
So,
I'm
I guess the nice side.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's definitely the biggest highlight because it was compared to Laos. It was, Laos it was hard to go out for a walk. So.
Okay. What about any low points you want to share?
To be honest, no. I feel quite like it's home here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're officially a Kiwi in the heart.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. I've been here for 8 years and I'm still not quite there, but I'm on my way.
Okay.
I'm on my way. I mean, I don't know, man. It's a complex thing, but any favorite parts of New Zealand you like visiting?
Well, I've only been to a few towns, but I loved. What was that? What's the name of that town? Is it Tauranga? It's towards the Coromandel. The beaches and the little town. Oh,
I haven't really been down there.
Tairua. That's I've been there 3 times now, 3 summers.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lovely little town, part of the Coromandel, and it's definitely me. I love that.
What's so cool about it?
The simplicity of it. Small town, very, I guess, just feels local. maybe it speaks to my heart just because I've always yearned for that homey feeling
Mm.
in that town. I guess speaks that way. It represents that way to me.
I'm gonna have to put it on my list. I never even heard of it. I mean, I heard of the Coromandel.
Yeah.
Probably the.
Usually people just drive past because it's very small.
It's tiny.
Very, very small. Yeah.
Okay.
We've been there every summer because my in-laws have a friend that owns a batch there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what about, I guess I can ask you about like, this is the funny part where we kind of talk about the Kiwi culture and we kind of slice it open a little bit. Is there anything that is like something that's strictly Kiwi culture that you just can't get your head wrapped around? Like it's just still kind of strange to you? Yeah, the laugh says it all. The laugh says it all, man.
The puff jacket and sandals or jandals?
Yes. What is that? What is that? Kiwis, what is that?
That makes me question a bit with the fashion.
You want to be?
Are you hot or are you cold?
Are you hot? Are you cold? Are you angry? Are you happy? What's going on? Are you coming or going? I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good one. But like, do you have anything like strictly Kiwi culture that you love?
The haka.
Yes.
Yeah. I find it quite incredibly powerful. Every time I hear it, there's this spirit that speaks through it. The soul just comes out through the people that dance to it, and the sound that comes out of their mouth. It's just it speaks a lot from the history. There's like the history is being brought out, ancestors being announced and known into the world today. So every time I hear it, it just gives me goosebumps. So.
The haka. I kind of find it terrifying, especially if it's more than like 10 people. Like it's actually really, really scary when you think about it. Because I love the culture part of it as well.
Yeah.
I love that rich Maori kind of, but it's like, man, like when you look them in the eyes and they got the tongue out and stuff.
Right.
I actually learned the haka my first time and went back to Chicago and did it. And then my friends thought I was on drugs because they didn't understand what it was. And I was like, no, it's called the haka. Yeah. And they were just like, hey, why are you hitting yourself? Stop. Because whatever you're doing, I'm pretty sure they do it better. Just stop. It's just like completely embarrassing myself taking it back to Chicago. Or they didn't understand, you know. They didn't. I was excited. I'd experienced a new culture for the first time.
Yeah.
But anyway, any immigration hacks? Like this is more so like for people who are on their way to New Zealand. It could be from Laos. It could be from anywhere. If you were to talk to someone who was on their way to New Zealand, thinking about making New Zealand their home, do you have any immigration hacks for them? Because you went through a lot to get in here. So
yes, yeah. I mean, for me, the visas have always been the most complicated part. But after getting my permanent resident, things have been a lot more smooth, and I feel less anxious if the immigration's going to contact me or not. And so definitely being patient with the visas is the biggest, I guess, advice I have.
Just try to be patient.
Yeah, and be honest with immigration is a big one. Even though it was complicated, and yes, I got rejected a few times. I understood where they were coming from, and that I knew that the best way to get through was being honest. Like they knew my background, living in America illegally, and I had my intentions of coming here to just raise a family with my husband. So
would that be your advice for new immigrants who have already they've made it in, they've made it through the process?
What? That they got the visa already?
Yeah, they've already, let's just say people have already made it in, they got the visa. What would be your advice as far as settling in, helping them settle in and become one with the culture here?
Right. Find a community, finding friends. Yeah.
Make connections.
Yeah. Definitely put yourself out there. But I know it's easier said than done.
Yes.
Because everyone's different. I think for me, I've always been outgoing. So I wouldn't say it's easy.
Yeah.
But I guess it definitely helps.
Okay.
To find the people that can be, who knows, lifelong friends.
All good.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's an awesome, immigration story. Sounds like you jumped through a lot of hurdles to get here, and I'm glad you're here. But let's talk about something that is or was a hot topic and still sort of kind of a hot topic, depending on who you talk to. And that is the vaccine mandates that we had here in New Zealand. But not just New Zealand, globally, that was more or less a vaccine mandate somewhere. Yeah. And before we talk about the mandate, let's just talk about COVID itself. Like, COVID hit everybody hard. Whether you've had it or haven't had it, it affected you directly or indirectly. So I guess I want to know, how did it affect you directly or indirectly, COVID-19 itself?
Yeah. Well, first of all, my husband, he's a cop. So when the first COVID lockdown happened here in New Zealand, there was a bit of fear in our family. Well, especially me. I knew that he was exposed, especially through the media as well. The way they made it sound, it was quite, this is deadly and all that.
Yeah.
And seeing my husband, every time he went to work or when he was at work, he would send me photos of him in this white gown to protect himself. And there was a little bit of, he can catch this disease or this virus, and what if he died, like everybody says. But at the same time, there was peace in me, just having my community, and I going to church and having God and having that constant reminder that there's a bigger picture to all of this.
Yeah.
But no doubt it affected me day to day, just knowing that my husband was going out and being exposed. And if he gets sick, how would it affect me if I get sick? I know it can affect my whole family. The kids will they be too sick, or how will we all function? But yeah, so that was the first initial reaction to it. And not long after the lockdown, my husband was exposed to someone that claimed that they had the virus. So he was told to isolate in the house for, I don't remember at that time, I don't remember the how many days, but a few days. And he was locked in a room, and I would, give him a meal through the door. And my kid saw that. My oldest daughter, Layla, she was 3 at that time, and she saw that, and it was not normal. It created a little bit of stress among the family, and not being able to explain to her very much like what's going on, like her preschool shut down, and now daddy's in a room, you can't really see him, you can talk to him, but
the kids don't get it, man.
Yeah, so that added a bit of more, of course, stress. Maybe not too much for us. I've definitely talked to friends that had more stress level. But nonetheless, it was still not a pleasant experience in terms of having to explain and trying to make things clear to her, like what's going on, because it's at that time. I mean, still to this day, I feel like, what is it really? COVID? Is it the actual disease, or is there a big picture to the government trying to control something? Which I don't have a lot to say to that, just because I've never been much of or following politics or watching the news and just trying to be on which side. I've always been quite neutral when it comes to big topics. But I like to change that. And I do want to, I have dig into more like what is the whole, what's really the story here.
Yeah.
Like, there's definitely more than what we see through the media. That's what I know for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're in the same category as me. Like, you either have, and we never get a voice. Like, this category is the people who are over here far to the left, and it's people over here far to the right.
Yes.
And it's that middle category. We just hey, can we just get the facts on the table and like discuss it and then make a collective decision.
Yeah.
Like that crowd, I feel like me and you in that same
Yes.
crowd, we're just like, man, like we just want to know what's going on.
Yes.
We're not trying to make anybody look bad.
That's
We're
right.
not trying to blame the government. We're not
That's
trying to
right.
blame the person in China.
Yeah.
We just want to know how we can stay safe. And it's like,
Yeah.
And like it's like, But
Yeah.
with that said, vaccine mandates hit. Obviously, this was huge and still is huge. But yeah, vaccine mandates happen globally, not just in New Zealand. Each government decided amongst themselves. I mean, there wasn't some countries that didn't do it, but for the most part, like in all the major first world countries, like this was happening. Like, yeah, this was in order for you to keep your job, you have to get vaccinated. In order for you to run a organization, you have to get vaccinated, because the alternative was to just shut down every city every week. And that was not working, because that was making everyone lose money and everyone lose their mind as well. So, because don't even get me started on the mental health part of this, because that's like, that's a whole other podcast in itself. Like the mental health ramifications of COVID and the lockdowns. Oh my gosh. I actually knew someone who lost their mom to suicide in one of the lockdowns. Just couldn't handle everything that was going on and just not having that support. So with the mandates, that obviously caused a rift in the culture. And even to this day, people are kind of, weird talking about it. So I guess I want to know, like, after hearing your story of immigration, how did the vaccine mandates kind of change your view or affect your view of New Zealand, at that point in time? Because you came over here with high hopes. You already told me how in love you are with this land and the culture. How did it affect your view?
Yeah. It didn't really affect me that much. Again, I guess coming from being a neutral person or being in the middle, I've always trying to look at this as everyone's trying to do their best. Therefore, the government, not everyone in the government field have bad intentions. They're all trying to do their jobs, and I think that, we're all just being humans and trying to keep each other safe. But I guess because there's a lot of opinions, it just seems a bit like there's a lot of clash going on. But I honestly, though, I feel like it affected my husband a lot more than it affected me. But seeing him struggle because he has a government job, that affected me. Just seeing that it wasn't aligned to, the mandates was not aligned to his belief. Therefore, my belief as well. But again, I've never been very strong-spoken or outspoken about what exactly is my view.
What was his belief on the mandates?
It's not fair. People shouldn't be forced to get vaccines in order to keep a job. It didn't make sense, and that this whole vaccine thing, it's a personal choice. And that I also agree, because vaccines, as we know, before COVID hit, is that you choose to get vaccinated or not. And we're not pro or against. We choose to get vaccinated on certain virus or to protect ourselves from certain viruses. But with the COVID, because the media and the government really push it like it has to be done, now we see that, oh, wow, we're being controlled. So I got that message quite strong from the media and my husband, the fact that he got affected by it, but he also, he has to earn money to keep the money flowing in the house.
Yeah.
He was struggling with that because he was one of the last guys in his team at that time, one of the last two guys that was like, no, I don't want to get vaccinated. And he felt like he was being pushed right through the wall, like pushed into the corner. Is that the saying? Yeah, you're being pushed into the corner to do something.
Yeah.
And so that's how he really felt until he was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to get vaccinated, because he couldn't, he was getting pressured by the boss and the boss and the top people. And it affected daily things, like he was doing jiu-jitsu. He couldn't go to jiu-jitsu classes because he didn't have the vaccine. So it's all of these little things that I guess, was keeping him sane or helping him feel like life is a bit normal. But now he has to, I guess, make this extra step to live a normal life.
Yeah. It just felt like it was more of a, I just feel like if it's the rollout, it's the way it was rolled out. Yeah. I don't know about certain parts of the world. I can only talk about in New Zealand because I live in New Zealand. The way it was rolled out. Again, we are not, especially on this podcast, we are not about demonizing the government. We're not about trying to put blame on Jacinda or blame on anybody. Like Leena said, everybody at the time and still to this day is just trying to do the best they can.
That's right.
But in saying that, it's like the way things were rolled out, there wasn't that much information. Like I always say, information is vital. So if we had the information to say, hey, look, this is what's happening. This is the trend of what happens when you don't have the vax. This is the trend of what happens when you do have the vax. This is the trend of the people who have adverse reactions. Yeah. This is the trend of the people who don't have adverse. Like if you had everything, all of the variables on the table, it would have put people in a situation where they didn't feel forced to do something. I mean, it was, I think people even still, I would even go so far as to say, I don't even know if a lot of people would have felt abused at the time or forced if there was a better rollout, if it was more information. It just wasn't that much information. Yes. It was like, here's a syringe. Yep. This is the stuff you need. Yep. Put it in your arm. Yeah. And like you got people who are like, yeah, this is it. Yeah. Put it in your arm. Yeah. You got some people who are like, wait a minute, we don't know what's in that. And it was just a crazy, crazy time to deal with. At the end of the day, it's fear. Like you said, it's fear.
Out of fear
on both sides. It's fear of people who are anti-vax, and it was fear of people who are pro-vax. Yeah. But here at the Immigration Status Podcast, we get the unique opportunity to kind of see it from an outside perspective. Or you're inside now, but it's like me and you, we're immigrants, so we're from the outside looking in, but we in.
Yes.
Inside looking out. Oh no, that makes sense. But anyway, it's really interesting because both of us come from places that we, for better or worse, we feel like New Zealand is a better place to live and raise a family. But I gotta admit, and when that happened, that's for the first time, and I've been here for 8 years. For the first time, I slowly started to kind of shift my opinion on New Zealand. Yeah. Like, because it was just like, wow, this is intense. Yeah. But it's just like, man. So with that said, vaccines with a little bit of push from the opposite parties, the vaccine mandates get dropped. Now I think the police force and the army, right?
Yes.
Theirs got dropped first.
Yes.
So that obviously there was a nice night in your house.
Yes. But then my husband rolled his eyes.
Yeah.
Like, really?
Yeah, because he did it and then he found out he didn't have to do it.
And that goes to show how much this whole thing was just like, oh. See, it wasn't that everyone made a huge deal out of it, But also there was this side of, well, it was definitely out of fear as well. Pushing people to do the things that they didn't want to do, but I guess the government was saying that this needs to be done in order to keep us all safe. And it was that message was constantly being thrown out. Like, if you don't get vaccinated, you're not safe and you're not protecting the community. And everybody was pointing fingers at each other.
What was interesting about that time also, it wasn't just the government saying that. These caused rifts in entire families.
Yeah.
I know people. Yes. I know a guy who said his mother wouldn't let him in the house because he hadn't been vaccinated.
Yes.
His mother wouldn't let him and his wife inside the house because he hadn't been vaccinated. She got vaccinated, so the wife got vaccinated, but he didn't. So the mother's like, I'm not letting you in the house. Your wife can come in, but you can't come in. Like, this type of thing was happening. So it was ripping apart families. It was ripping apart churches. It was ripping apart businesses. It was just like, it was going back. It was crazy. Yeah. And the aftermath is still there. I mean, we we have reached a point now where people kind of treat COVID like, it's just like like a dog without a leash. You know,
Yeah.
you know it's gonna roam. But
it was sad that happened. Though.
Yeah,
that was actually probably that affected me the most out of this whole pandemic. The COVID was how it drifted the families and people. Even people that had the same views or values, and it was quite interesting how it just literally like was cracking relationships,
cracking it really quickly too.
Yeah.
People you thought were going to be with you until you die, were gone overnight, and it's just like, oh, so you don't want? Oh, okay, well, see you later.
Yeah,
it's like
it was very interesting. Yeah, so that was probably the part that shocked me the most. But then when the mandates drop, it just was like, oh, okay. I mean, now I guess a lot of people are just kind of treating it like it's just another virus, and it's.
But how did we get there? Like that's the thing.
That's the thing. It went from like a big cold.
This was poltergeist. All of a sudden, oh yeah, it's just another virus, and it's just like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
this person just lost. Like so many people lost their jobs at the time. And I know some of those employers probably feel pretty crap about it as well. Like, oh man, I got rid of some of my best employees over this. And it was a huge thing, but it's just like, it's interesting. It's just an interesting thing. Like I think about even with medication, when you look on any medication right now, you're able to read the side effects. It's right there. It's printed on there. And I think going back to the point about information, we didn't have that information. We were just told, this is good for you.
Yeah.
Take it. And it was just like, okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any other information? And that's all we wanted. And then anybody who asked for extra information, you were labeled an anti-vaxxer. Like some of those people weren't really anti-vaxxers. They just wanted more information. And some of those people who took it actually weren't pro-vaxxers. They were just terrified. It's just like, it's just, and it was like everything happened so fast. So I think we're in a state of healing right now. Like as a nation, like people are just trying to be healed from that. Like COVID itself, it's horrible, it's dangerous when you actually get it, but the healing factor of the relationships being mended, that actually is still going on right now. And a lot of people are not talking about that, the aftermath of, okay, I actually was really, really mean to my cousin at this point in time. You're like, now we're coming back to that because it's interesting. Like you said, we at the place now where people treat it like it's a normal virus, but the aftermath of being hurt and being rejected from your family that you know and love your whole life is hard. And it's harder for immigrants, I think, because we already don't have that many people we can lean on. We already have, 6 or 7 people that we actually can call right now versus the people who've been living here their whole life. They got a large network. But for those who just moved over here, 5, 6, 7 years ago, or even you less than 5 years ago, you don't really have a large network. So it was like,
that's it. Actually, when you said that, it somehow it triggered something in my heart that was true. I was scared that the only family I had was my husband's family, and there was a bit of tensions. There's we were both on different sides a little bit. I guess I was leaning towards what Mark was believing. And and his family was a bit on the other side. And I guess I was always trying to be the middle person and trying to make peace. So just kind of go with the flow, just because I didn't want family to break apart, because I saw it was going to happen.
Yes.
And I didn't realize, that you made a good point there of how us as immigrant, we don't have that many people to lean on. We don't. And, my family was all in Laos, and they were experiencing it too. But I wish they were here with me as well. And
then you got people who couldn't even go to their, family members' funerals and such. That's another thing that was happening. They finally reopened the borders for travel, but then if you weren't vaccinated, they weren't even letting you on the plane.
Oh, now you're bringing more. It's funny how
I'm just saying,
everything's flooding out of me now.
Yeah. We're peeling back the layers now.
I can't, my mom couldn't come.
Yeah.
My mom was supposed to come into 2020, which when I had my second baby. And that's a month afterwards, we had our first lockdown. And we're like, okay, all right. But now it's like, okay, this is getting quite complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a bit much. Yeah. So yeah, I do feel a little bit, as much as I guess maybe I'm still in the stage of in love with New Zealand because it's home. It feels home. It feels like home. I'm with my family, and this is a new family I'm building with. But at the same time, yes, this whole hype with trying to deal with the virus was a bit too dramatic. I feel like it wasn't necessary. It wasn't. Now I find that I'm on the other side. Yeah. I'm going left and right a little bit. Yeah, but this is more, I guess, affecting me as an immigrant, missing my family, and I want to see my family, and I haven't been able to see them because of the mandates.
Yeah,
and yeah, that's to me that's ridiculous. Oh yeah, because dealing with visas in the past, it was already complicated enough.
Yes. And
now with the mandates adding on to it, it's even more complicated. Like especially for my mom, who has a history of living in America illegally. I don't know how that affects her now, even with the extra paperwork she has to file for. Is she vaccinated or is she not? Is she safe to come into the country, or she's going to come here and live illegally? Yeah. Now, it made more things definitely more complicated. So,
well, I would like to close on a positive note, or try to. Just in retrospect, I've known, like, just in history, observing history, nations, communities, cities, whatever, have always fought for justice. And that scrap for justice is hectic and is painful and is awkward, and it rips apart families and friends, but when the dust settles, it was all worth it. So I feel like I think history will repeat itself, and I feel like yes, we lost connections, yes, we had rifts, but I feel like New Zealand is in a category of those countries where eventually New Zealand will own up to their mistakes, and New Zealand will heal. Right. And New Zealand will move on because New Zealand wants to be better. Yeah. And that's one thing I do love about New Zealand. New Zealand wants to be better. Yeah. They want to be better. And we're in this stage now where we're in the beginning stages of healing all communities, all cultures. We're putting down our spears. Yeah. We're putting down our guns, and we're like, okay, can we try to get back to normal? Can we try? And then we got people out here that are willing to try. It's only so much negativity you can put on Facebook. It's only so much negativity. It's only so many times you can curse out Jacinda on Facebook. At some point in time, you're going to have to take responsibility for your own community, for your own family, and say, hey, we actually live with these people in a community, in this nation, and we're here in this nation and we want to be here. The people that don't want to be here, they're gone. But the people that have stayed, I think, are the people that are invested in New Zealand. Yeah. And most of those are migrants. Yeah. They're here, and not most of them, but a lot of them. For sure. A lot of them are, the born and bred Kiwis. Yeah. But a lot of those are migrants. And I think those two categories of people, which me and you are part of, we actually do want to see New Zealand push forward, and we actually do want to we want to, heal and be a significant change maker here. And I think you in that category as well.
For sure.
Do you have any closing thoughts that you want to share?
I think you said it very well there.
Oh, okay.
I'm on the same boat.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And I want to thank the audience, just for coming back with season 2 once again. I want to thank Uranga. I want to thank Navigators Group. I want to thank the Ministry of Ethnic Communities, and definitely Campfire Studios. And we are closing out again on Myron Turner. Please tune in for episode 2. It's going to be a good one. That was an amazing episode with Leena. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I want to thank our sponsors once again, Navigators Group, Uranga. I want to make a special thanks to the Ministry of Ethnic Communities as well, and also Campfire Studios for this facility. Hey guys, please tune in for the rest of season 2. A lot of crazy things happening coming up, but some good stuff as well. You're gonna love it. Just tune in. See you next time.